vibration of creation, the cosmic hum. The eternal cyclic rhythm of earth, moon, and sun. Earth Song is the ancient conversation between shore and sea. The love ballad between flower and bee. Earth Song is the melody of mountains that rise and fall. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to this interview in Embody the Empress, where we are looking at how to blossom and flourish in harmony with the natural world. Today, I am so excited to introduce you to Flora Ware. Flora is a song priestess, the founder of Earth Song Temple, where she serves a global community through ceremony, singing circles, and earth magic. Welcome, Flora, and thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Edwina. I'm so thrilled to be here.
I'm very excited for this whole conversation and for the experience that we're going to have in about half an hour. But what I want to do, through the essence of this entire series, I am capturing the stories of the blossoming of women. And when we think about the blossoming, it is looking at the journey all along the way where we are sometimes on track. I feel like as young girls, we're not questioning who we are. We just know who we are. And then we go through the experience of being in school where there's the messaging that starts to come in about who we are and what we're good at and what we're not good at. And then we are influenced so much by the voices of others. And then slowly, as our journey continues, we start to trust more intuitively our own inner knowing of who we are and what we're here to do. And so what I want to do, Flora, is just start with your first intuitive kind of gut feeling of your journey of becoming a song priestess. Where do you feel like that journey really began for you?
That journey really began for me at a very young age,
Yeah.
but it took me a long time to see it that way or to understand it that way. I was fortunate to have parents that encouraged my singing and encouraged my musicality and creativity. And so I was singing before I could speak. And taught myself piano on the little toy piano at home, and was just, like I said, very, very fortunate and blessed to have that kind of encouragement at home. And so as a teenager, it wasn't until I was a teenager that the music, my passion for music was still there, and I went into formal music training with the piano, and then also with theater and dance and musical theater, and then classical voice, learning opera. I wanted to challenge myself right away. I do have an overachiever in me. So, it was like as soon as I could afford to pay for my own singing lessons at 17 and get myself there, I went for opera.
Yeah.
And And my spiritual path also started young. I attended my first full moon women's circle when I was 15,
Mm.
with my mom and her friends. And the main part that I really remembered about those women's circles were the drumming and the chanting around the fire.
Right. Yeah.
And those experiences really evoked a deep remembering in me, a deep remembrance of when that was very common,
Yeah.
and how since time immemorial we have gathered around the fire to sing and to drum and to tell stories. And so I would say that interesting coming together of my spirituality and my budding, I guess, inspiration and motivation to pursue a career in the performing arts. As soon as I really started to put that, let's say, that professional edge or the motivation, that's where I got a little bit maybe off track, right? Because I was trying to make my living,
Yeah.
as being a singer, a performer at that point in my 20s. I went to college, I got my music diploma in contemporary and jazz voice. And and then the other thing is your fate, right? Fate just always has its way. Within months of me graduating from my music diploma, I was introduced to vocal sound healing.
Ah,
And this was 20 years ago now. And And so then it was a huge awakening for me, because at that point I'd spent probably a good 6 years highly developing my instrument, right? Honing my instrument. And then suddenly I was introduced to the voice as a sound healing tool.
yeah.
And it wasn't much of a leap for me, since my those women's circles as a teenager, and feeling, not just understanding, but experiencing the power of voice in a ritual setting, in a sacred setting, that then I got on the path 20 years ago of sound healing and the voice, and teaching workshops, and
Yeah.
slowly, bit by bit. So that was a as quick as I can share the overview of the start of my journey.
It's interesting. Like as you talk, I'm thinking about the very, and I talk about masculine and feminine, not from a male and female perspective, but that very masculine confinement of academic learning. It's like you have this soul feeling of something that you want to express in the world. And then the masculine academic sticks it in a box, and it's like has all these confinements about what you're allowed, especially when you get into sort of the healing fields, what you're allowed to say and what it should look like and what it is, and which bits you're strong at and which bits you're not, and all this sort of boxing in. And the experience of singing in women's circles and being in nature around a campfire, or that it's that just that completely feminine flowing expression of authenticity versus the academic confinement. So it's really interesting that you've had both experiences. That's just what was coming into my mind as you're talking.
Yeah.
um, but I think it's really interesting to look at the connection to spirit and intuition on this journey, and where that developed for you. Did you start with any sort of religious Christianity or Catholicism, or what was your background to spirituality as a child?
Hmm. Yeah, so I was essentially raised pagan
Yeah,
by my hippie parents,
yeah,
who
yeah,
had both themselves left the church of their upbringing,
yeah,
right? My father was English and had been raised Protestant. My mother was Irish Catholic.
mm,
And so they had both left religion before I was born. So again, I recognize my blessing and my privilege at being raised pagan, essentially. They weren't too active about it, not until I was older. And then I feel like my mom and I kind of discovered things together at the same time, you know. Um, but you know, it's that boxing in that you were talking about isn't, I mean, yeah, perhaps it is that more masculine energy to contain and to have some structure, but because also I was in my 20s then, and I was really trying to figure out what I was going to do to make money
Yeah.
in
Oh,
this
yeah.
life.
Yep.
And I was, you know, for a while there, I really just went for it, that I thought I could make it as a professional singer. And that's the trouble when we have a talent for something, like when we are really talented and we really love something,
Yeah.
there is a natural inclination. I mean, like, well, I want to do this for my work. I want to do
Yeah.
it as my profession.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you start, you know, trying to make money, sometimes sometimes it doesn't work out. And I think everyone knows that musicians, artists, dancers, poets
Yeah.
usually don't make a lot of money. So I knew I was up against what I was up against,
Yeah.
but hey, I gave it a great try. I gave it a decade of my life. I gave it a decade of my life
Yeah.
to try to make it. I performed at all the biggest festivals where I live in Western Canada. And, you know, my ex-wife was, you know, my big champion, my mom, big champion. I had lots of independent success.
Yeah.
And yet I wasn't able to live on that, right? And so what was I also passionate about? Spirituality, women's circles, lunar phases, the turning of the cycles. Again, not something that I thought would ever make me money.
Yeah. 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 Yes, but and what I am seeing is all these things now that we have access to so many more people through this online space, is so many women that, you know, I think you use the word remembering. It's that, oh, sitting around your first women's circle. It's that remembering, it's that ancestral wisdom in us that suddenly starts to awaken. But I just lost the thread of my thought then. But I think there is this now, because we have access to being able to talk to so many more people, the wisdom that you have gathered on your journey now gets to be a way that when you speak about it and when you sing, you're awakening that remembering in other people. It's like you're passing this on.
Mhm. Yes. So that was really such a wake-up call. And it was the end of 2015 and the beginning of 2016 that I was suddenly introduced to the idea of an online business
Wow.
and seeing other women out there that were getting paid to do things that I had been doing for practically free.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And it was just huge light bulb moment for me. So 2016, I went all in,
Yeah.
and here I am,
Yeah.
8 years later,
Yeah.
having created more success than I ever would have imagined. And I've been fully self-employed now for 7 years
Yeah.
as a vocal coach and as a ceremonial priestess.
Yeah.
I love telling people when they say, "What do you do?" I go, well, actually, I'm a professional witch.
Ah.
And then seeing their reaction.
Yes, and a Celtic witch. So my heritage, my father, I'm a Murphy, so my father, I mean, it's about as Irish as you can get, and my mother's an Irving, which is Scottish, so that Celtic blood is alive and well in my veins. But what is a Celtic witch for people that are just like, I am so curious, tell me more.
Well, you know, I use that term simply for myself. So I
Yeah,
guess I just want to say that my reasons might be different than someone
yeah,
else,
yeah,
but it is to give a nod, to acknowledge and to honor my ancestry,
yeah,
and to also, I suppose, define for others to know that my spiritual practices are rooted in the seasonal traditions
yeah,
of the Celts.
yeah. So cyclical living is a big part of what you support women to reconnect with. So I'd love to hear more about what that is.
Hmm. Well, so until very recently in our human history, all we all understood time as cycles, as cyclical, right? That the turning of the seasons,
Yeah.
or even just one moon, one lunar cycle, and then it starts again. We inherently, intrinsically understood time
Yeah.
and our experience here on this planet as cyclical. And then, you know, a few thousand years ago, we started trying to measure time, control time, create these calendars. And as so many of us know, our calendars are woefully
Mm.
out of sync,
Yeah.
quite strangely how out of sync they are. And so we are now in a very interesting point in time where we're operating within this, you know, the system or the structure that all of us kind of feel like it doesn't quite fit, but
Yeah.
none of us really know what to do about it either. And
Yeah.
so tuning into our cyclical natures and cyclical time
Yeah.
in many ways is actually easier for women than men, because this we have our monthly cycles.
Yeah.
We have our monthly menstruation that is really, it's again, that's intrinsic. It's our intrinsic connection. So what the basis of what I teach and guide is really around um, you know, guiding, and not just women. In fact, Earth Song Temple, my community, is open to all genders. Although for the first 5 years of my business, my work, I was really focused on just working with women. So it's a relatively new in the last couple of years, really opening that up.
Yeah.
Um, but I find that some people either start with the lunar, they're really drawn to starting to track the lunar phases, and that's where their intuition is guiding them.
Yeah.
And for others, it's the solar. It's the recognition of that I want to celebrate and acknowledge the turning of the seasons, or they get turned on to the Celtic wheel of the year.
Mm.
And you know, maybe they've heard about the equinoxes and the solstices before, but they don't know about the other four Celtic fire festivals. And
Yeah.
so I always recommend that people start with the solar.
Yeah.
Spend a year with the solar or the lunar, if that's the
Yeah.
lunar, and draw that. And then once you've got, then you can start to come together into the solar lunar creation cycle that we're always in. It's like the, you know, the classic wheels within a clock, or
Yeah.
cogs within, there's like little cycles within bigger cycles within bigger cycles.
Yeah. I love it. And starting to understand the different energies with the different moons is something that's more recent for me. The way that I've always looked at it is because of my love and background and everything that I have to do with food. It's like this seasonal eating, and there's so many basic things that we're out of sync with, because you can buy a watermelon in the middle of winter in the supermarket, which makes no sense. And now citrus is in the supermarkets in summer when it's a winter fruit, and like all these different things that when you work in a garden and you plant your own fruit trees and your own vegetables, and you have a sense of this cyclical nature of nutrition and why we're supposed to eat different things at different times of the year. And there's so many things like that we're out of sync with because we're not growing our own food, and we're out of sync with because we're not noticing where the moons are and how that's tied in with the literal movement of water across the globe and the oceans and in our bodies. And the more we connect to it, the more delicious it all becomes. And the other cycle that I'm fascinated with and always looking at is the second 7-year cycles in our lives. And as a mother of four, looking at the first 7 years and then 14 and 21. And if you, I did an exercise not so long ago where I mapped out the big things that have happened in my life, and it's amazing how it follows these 7-year cycles, which is also an ancient understanding. Yeah, it's fascinating. That's a new one for you if you don't know
Yeah,
about
I
it.
mean, I've heard about how our cells regenerate after 7 years, but I've just never mapped out my life, in 7 year cycles.
Yeah, it's really interesting if you start looking at it. Yeah, it's fascinating. But anyway, there's so many ways that we can look at this sort of cyclical nature of living. And it's fascinating. And the more we can own also the cycles that we're in, and the beauty in all of it. So the absolute beauty in the dark moon and that time of stillness and going in is a time of reverence as much as the full moon and full light, and the metaphors behind all of that as well. Yeah, anyway, I'm a big fan of using all of these different understandings with the cycles of nature and the need to be in dark as much as the need to be in light, and the effects of all of that. Yeah, beautiful. So there was a line, and I've loved reading on your website, and I encourage anyone listening to go and have a look at Flora's website and her beautiful, different blog posts and things. And I pulled out different lines that just captured my attention. And one of the things that you wrote was earth-based spirituality heals the harmful lie of feeling separate from the divine.
Mm,
Can you talk a bit more about that?
mm, mhm. Well, yeah. So returning to earth-based spiritual practices is exactly the healing that I really believe that we need, because of that lie that has been indoctrinated into us now for thousands of years, that we are separate from nature, separate from the divine. And hasn't that made it easy for us to just destroy the environment, seemingly forgetting that this is our home
Yeah,
and that we need to live here?
yeah,
And it's also the lie that has severely disempowered women,
yeah.
as because it's all part of that patriarchal system of thinking that really came into effect only about 6,000 years ago.
Mm,
6,000 years only.
yeah,
And that was like the early whisperings of it. Like it really was
yeah.
still in beginning. And so that's why I'm so passionate about bringing these practices back into popular culture, because it's one thing to understand the importance or to be really interested and intrigued by, oh, cyclical living, that
Mm,
sounds cool, or that's great. That's where we start. We have an interest, right?
yeah.
But until it's an embodied practice,
Mhm.
until it's actually part of our day-to-day life, then it's just, it is that it's just an interest.
Mm,
And so that part of the reason why the Wheel of the Year offers a template that is very attractive to people. And even if you just decided to do the 4 seasons, right? Even just honoring the 4 seasons with actual a ritual, some practices, some traditions of your own making
yeah,
that are meaningful to you and your family. Maybe, bringing in some flavor of some ancient traditions, sure. But that's the other important piece. It isn't about going back in time. We can never go back in time. It isn't about doing the exact same things that our Celtic ancestors or any ancestors did, because it's what's most likely is that those old traditions would have zero relevance to
yeah,
us today, right?
yeah.
Like, like the running of the cattle through the two bonfires at Beltane. I mean, sounds great, but I don't have any cattle. So I'm going to light two candles,
Yeah.
maybe, and I'm going to maybe pass some things through it that I want to, or I'm going to do something different. But that's, yeah, healing the lie that we are separate from nature, separate from the divine is really, it's key for our healing and key for our liberation.
Yeah. And I want to add to that, separate from each other. I think
Yeah.
this is something that if we could introduce one concept that would dramatically lead to the healing of humanity, is to understand that to hurt you is to hurt me.
That's right.
We're all one. We're all part of the soul of the universe, and the kinder I am to me, the kinder I am to you, and vice versa. And this is such a fundamental thing that gets lost from our earliest, well, I think for most of us through schooling, is this idea that we're separate. Like there's those girls and then there's those girls and then there's these people and then there's those people. And it's like the great divide. And as soon as you start tuning into any mainstream media, in my experience, it's this constant separation, people that do and people that don't, and people that vote for this and people that vote for that. And
Mm.
sexuality, politics, all of it is just causing constant separation from each other.
Mhm.
And as women, I believe it is part of our conversation to really start to heal this great divide. And
Mhm.
yes, absolutely, the separation from nature, like somehow we are above nature and we can just use it and discard it, is the most absurd notion possible, for us to have indoctrinated into our being. But it is there because it's been in come in through every sense that we can possibly think of into our being, into our thoughts and beliefs. And so this is part of the healing, is undoing that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely part of the healing. And women,
Mm.
all of us, but women are really essential to this
Mhm.
because we have been shut out
Yeah.
and or actively discouraged
Yeah.
from positions of leadership.
Yeah.
And again, it wasn't that long ago when we think of the big picture.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago that in even in ancient Greece, the Pythian priestesses at the Oracle of Delphi
Mm.
were consulted by the political leaders,
Mm.
right? And that those priestesses, it's documented, used sound, voice, drumming to create their altered states.
Mm.
And in the Celtic, they had the Bandori, which were the female druids. And they're also, again, this time was documented by the Roman people who were settling and documenting what the heathens were doing. And one of the things that I don't know that everyone knows this, but one of the things that deeply offended the Romans about the Celts was that they treated their women equally and that they had women leaders and they had like and they thought how weird and
Yeah.
strange that the
Yeah.
Celts did this, right?
Yeah.
And the Banduri, the female druids, had a very sacred role in the rites of passage. And again, we see again and again that music, using our voices, drumming, was so essential.
Yeah.
And I believe that this is because because music is vibration.
Yeah.
And when we're in that field, and certainly with a specific intention that's forming that sound or that music, it reminds us, we come into that remembrance
Yeah.
that we are all vibration.
Mm-hmm.
It is all vibration.
Yeah.
And that is part of the power of music and sound,
Yeah.
because it can move through seemingly solid things because then we realize now science proves us that anything that we think is actually solid isn't.
No. No, it's I remember, I think it's probably maybe the only thing I remember from physics class at school is this, like you put two fingers together and it's touching, but they're not really touching because there's this vibration that's happening in between. It's my memory of physics class. But yeah, it is just that experience of listening to a beautiful voice, and I love listening to your voice, Flora, but the experience of listening to Pavarotti fill a room, and just the feeling in your body, or any of the great singers, be it popular culture or opera or whatever it is, you can't not feel the vibrational change that happens in your body, and recognizing what that's doing in your body is, I guess, is the next part of how it actually heals. So maybe if we, before we go into an experience with you, if we look, or if you can just share with us perhaps a deeper explanation of how sound starts to heal in our bodies.
Yes. The first thing that I always like to share with folks is is just the simple fact that no one has your voice.
Mm.
Just like no one has your fingerprints. Your voice is absolutely unique to you. And because of this, it is already absolutely perfectly tuned to be your sound healing instrument. So many people that they love crystal singing bowls, or they maybe really get into tuning forks or other the traditional sound healing instruments. And I'm not bad mouthing any of those.
Yeah.
They're wonderful and sound beautiful. And yet none of them are going to be as powerful or as effective at creating shifts in your energy field as your own voice.
That is
So,
fascinating. And I am going to be a voice for all the women out there that are like me, that have, I've always said that if I found a genie in a bottle, my first wish would be to have an amazing singing voice. It is quite literally my bucket list thing that I would love. And my whole life, just to set the scene for you, I've got two older sisters. Sadly, my eldest sister has passed away, but the middle sister is a music therapist and can play anything and sings like an angel. And I always say she soaked up every musical gene before I managed to come into the world. And when I sing, it is like this kind of like, where do we look?
first of all, that's not actually possible for your sister to have done that.
But it is an ingrained belief that if I sing in public where anyone can hear me, it is not doing anybody else a service. So I'm not alone. I know there's millions of women out there that have this belief that they can't sing. So
Yes.
what do you
Yeah.
say to us?
I say, I'm sorry
No.
that at one point in your life, you were told or you got the strong message that there was something wrong with your voice.
Do you know that makes me teary? That makes me
Yeah.
teary.
I'm sorry that someone told you that you shouldn't sing and it's not true. And you've been carrying that lie
Yeah.
and that inhibition around your voice for too long.
Ah, I
And
don't
so this
imagine.
is why the reclaiming of the voice
Mm.
is so healing, even if you don't ever use it as a sacred tool, right?
Yeah, and I think that, obviously you've just cracked something in my heart, but I think this can be extended to women that don't even want to speak. You know, it
Oh,
is
oh yeah.
they're so careful with everything that come out of our mouth. And I'm very blessed that I've always been told that I have an amazing speaking voice. And so I'm a storyteller and I do interviews and I use my voice to heal in this way for other women. But to add singing to this is, yeah, it's beautiful. It's a gift to have the unlocking of a belief that I can, because I say I can.
Yeah. I almost every client that I work with comes to me with some version of this story. Almost every client.
Mm.
Their mother turning around and snapping at them while
Mm.
they're driving and
Mm.
stop singing so loud and it was probably a moment of stress for that mother because she was driving, but that just
Mm.
stuck or
Mm.
something. And while while it's true that not everyone is not everyone's going to have the kind of voice that we like to listen to on the radio necessarily.
Yeah.
I also want to remind everyone, go back and listen to some older music before auto tune,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Anyone, I'm 47, right? So I grew up on real music without the auto tune. You listen to old like Carole King,
Yeah.
even Diana Ross, lots of anything.
Mm.
You hear them being slightly pitchy in parts. If you have that ear, you can pick it up. Auto tune has done a huge disservice to everyone because it's just another way that only absolute perfection is allowed.
Oh, isn't that interesting? It's like the face filter for voices. Mm.
Ugh, right? And it's so there's so many things that contribute to this idea of like, if you don't sound amazing, you don't even deserve to sing, right? Why do only the beautiful voices
Mm.
get to sing?
Yes. And
Why don't we honor the cracks in our voices? That's where the power is.
yeah.
And I'll come back to, there's a reason why in almost every movie, TV show, or different like book where they show a witch and the witch goes to like cast a spell. What is it? With the voice.
Ah.
She raises her hands up and she does an incantation to the full moon, or she grabs her magic wand, which I always have right here on my desk. And she speaks. We speak into being. And this is the one thing that I do love about the Bible, although I'm not sure. It says, and God spoke,
Yeah.
and life and existence came into being. So again, vibration.
Yeah.
Almost every origin myth, the first thing is some kind of sound or vibration, and then right with it, light out of the darkness. So the connection, even at a scientific level of sound and light, when we're working with our own voice and vibration, to be able to to remember that we are more than this physical body, and we are able to access our light body through sound.
Mm. Mm. Thoughts, words, and deeds.
Yeah.
The speak it. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. So I feel like I would love to have an experience. I would love to experience what you have to offer us. So maybe if you just want to set the scene, what I'm going to do is put the video on for so it's on the speaker view, so we just see you, and I'm going to mute myself and hand it over to you. Do you feel like you're ready? Is there anything that you want to add before I
Yeah,
do this?
I do. So this is especially for anyone who's really terrified of using your voice. You have the lump in, maybe you're even feeling the lump in your throat right now, even thinking about it, right? That's how powerful that can be. Is just to be kind to yourself. be kind and allow this to be an exploration. And if and to challenge whatever excuses you might already be making in your head right now about why you can't participate right now, but maybe you'll come back to this replay and you'll sing later. I challenge you to
Yeah.
make a little bit of sound.
Yeah.
All we're going to be doing is toning. That's what I want to say. We're just going to be toning on some open vowels. But the frequencies, the notes that I'm going to be inviting you to sing with are harmonic in nature, which means that they have a harmonious relationship with each other musically. And so it is designed to bring a sense of alignment, centeredness. You'll feel what you'll feel, but this is just an introduction to how your voice is a sound healing instrument, and also ways that you hopefully can be inspired to use it in your own personal rituals, different ways that you can use your voice. Does that sound good?
All right, I'm going to mute myself and I'll be back when you feel complete. Thank you so much, Flora.
All right. Okay. So first of all, just breathing in through your nose and out your mouth. And one more time. And now the third time, making a sigh or a sound on the exhale. And I also always like to remind people to massage the sides of your jaw here when you begin to vocalize, sing, because this is one area where we hold a lot of tension and we can unintentionally be clenching when we're singing. And that's one of the ways that our voice can feel tense. So one more time, big sigh. Yeah. All right. And now just humming. And again, just closing your eyes now and feeling this for yourself, your own vibrations. Do you actually feel the descending of your hum if you're doing that dipping with me? Is it vibrating down here? Now let's scoop up. Do you feel that lift? Right? You're feeling your instrument from the inside. And the more you do that, and you can do it, you don't even have to move around. That's a beautiful way to always start, is just with humming. And this is a great practice suggestion for those of you that are really, like I said, terrified of opening your voice, of singing, that maybe what you need to get started and is literally doing this, hands over your heart and doing a bit of a sway and just humming a little lullaby to yourself. Right? That's a beautiful practice. Kind of along those reparenting lines too, of like, you can mother that inner child or that little girl in you that is scared to speak, that is afraid of the judgment of singing or is afraid to be misunderstood. Hum to her, sing to her. Yeah. Okay. So now I'm going to play what's called a drone, and that mean that it's just a sustained note, a drone note. And this is an instrument called the Shruti box, although I'm not actually playing the instrument. This is a recording. Let's try to match me there. To stay there. If that note feels comfortable and you just want to keep on exploring, toning on that, by all means, you stay there. But if you wish to try a harmony with me, I now invite you to join me with a hey. To join me going up now on a ha, really open ah. Anyone loves the high notes, join me on an ooh. Ooh. those notes, or allow yourself to weave around a little bit and let your voice explore. But really, this is your music meditation now. Yourself come to silence, taking a deep breath, resting, basking in the vibrations. And if you wanted to begin using your voice in your own personal spiritual practices, this kind of toning is or the humming, toning, start simple. Those of you that work with affirmations though, or you're making a prayer, maybe it's time to start working with incantations. Something like this. I am safe to use my voice. repeat any of these if they feel powerful for you, resonant for you. I'm allowed to sing. I'm allowed to sing. I'm allowed to speak my truth. I'm allowed to speak my truth. It's safe for me. It's safe for me. Oh. Now I invite you to just close your eyes and really receive this. And if you're moved to sing with me, that's beautiful, but just really receiving this. I'm going to sing this as a soul song to your voice, to your throat chakra. Ooh. When you're ready, gently opening your eyes, coming back. Hmm. So, I am no longer hearing you, Edwina. So it's this strange little tech.
There we are. I'm
Yeah.
back. Is that?
Okay.
I was just saying I'm busy wiping all the tears off that were running down my chest. That was so beautiful, Flora.
Hmm.
What a gift. What an extraordinary gift your voice is. Your
What a gift your voice is. Everyone's voice is.
Thank you. Thank you. I think it would be a lovely just to bring awareness to the throat chakra, and for people that don't have an understanding of the chakras, and just some time spent with that, your understanding how we connect to it. I know there's color and a few different things. Um, that feels like something just to touch on after what you just did. So after what you just gave us.
Sure. Well, it's the easy one to find because it's called the throat chakra, and we all know where the throat is. Um, and really, it's our center of communication and our center of expression. And so, yes, the color is blue or turquoise blue, if people like to work with the color frequencies. Um, I think one of the more relevant pieces with that chakra to what we've just experienced and what we're talking about in my work is that what in my experience, a decade's experience, but certainly more recently now that I've really been, is that I see again and again that the throat chakra is the key for unlocking so much of where women especially are repressed. And the witch wounds that we have culturally inherited and subconsciously inherited are a lot of our witch wounding is around this center. Because again, communication, expression. So the fear of speaking up is very connected to our fear of being persecuted and harmed
Mm,
for who we are or for what we know.
mm,
And so there's just a lot wrapped up in this center. And I mentioned the lump in the throat. That's one of the physical symptoms that so many of us have that experience where we are holding back. And so it really is it's just such a powerful energy center to give some love and attention to,
yeah.
and sound, some vibration, some loving vibration.
Mhm. And I think it's, if we think about the whole premise of this conversation is blossoming and flourishing in harmony with the natural world. And unfortunately, the trust in it being able to do that is part of what was so deeply damaged through that whole programming around what a witch is, and healing through herbs and through music and through storytelling and through the natural connection to spirit and then intuition and all of these core things that are so in alignment with what being a witch is, through that. I think my understanding is that even the word witch was something that was coined by patriarchy, but I'm not the expert on that. But there is so many elements of being a woman who works in harmony with the natural world that we have been taught to fear. If you're going to get burnt at the stake, it's a pretty good reason to stay quiet and to not share our gifts with the world. So
Exactly.
it couldn't be a more perfect conversation for, really my intention for this whole series.
Mm, beautiful. Well,
And that,
I'm glad that you had such a moving
uh,
experience yourself, Edwina. So,
so beautiful. Thank you. I know you have a gift for our audience. Did you want to take a minute?
Yeah.
The Sacred Voice Awakening.
Yeah. And really just what I'll say is my free gift is the Sacred Voice Awakening, which is a 3-part masterclass and ritual activation to heal the witch wounds that are blocking your throat chakra.
Ah,
So they're about 30 minutes each. They're not long. But in total, you get 90 minutes through video with me that are the first part is release your silence. So it's clearing your throat chakra and really healing that witch wound of being silenced. And then the second one is release your invisibility
yeah,
and gaining courage to be seen and healing that witch wound of being persecuted.
yeah,
And then the third one is release your imposter syndrome. The third one's definitely more geared for entrepreneurs or women in leadership role, but again, it's really a helpful one for healing any internalized patriarchy because that's releasing your imposter syndrome and seeing yourself as a leader
yeah,
and healing the witch wound of being disempowered.
yeah,
So that's my free gift.
yeah. I feel like I want to add two things to this conversation. One is that we are all leaders. Somebody is always watching, whether it is a sister, whether it is children, whether it is people in your workplace. We're all leaders of something. We're all role models of something. So I believe and I feel very strongly that the leadership conversation is something that women get to connect with in a much more authentic way. We're not talking about leaders of political parties, or we're talking about true leadership.
That's it. And that's why so many people just never, women especially, don't see
Mhm.
themselves as leaders.
Yeah,
Why? Why not?
yeah, exactly. The other thing that I want to touch on, because I feel like I had to go through a long period of connecting to this idea, but I feel that part of the divide that has happened so strongly is in conversation about what we call spirit and the need to be right. So whether we call it God, whether we call it the Great Mother, the universe, spirit, Mother Earth, I truly believe we are all talking to the same thing.
Mhm.
So the idea of getting caught up on having a conversation about being a witch or being a Christian or being Catholic or being Buddhist, or it is whatever journey feels true and perfect for you is true and perfect. And it is all about being connected to the idea that we're not alone, that there is a divine intelligence. And I don't think the divine intelligence cares what we call it. I don't think it's as human as that, as to get caught up in it. That's not my name. So I
That's
think
right.
I think that's the other thing that I just want to bring forward to this.
Thank
So
you.
one of the things that I love to do, and there'll be some people tuning into this that have been listening to my summit since 2017, and one of the things that I love to do is end with the same question for every speaker, because I feel
Okay.
like it just ties everything together. And even before we recorded this, I was like, what is my question? What is my question? And so here's the question that I have for you. If I were to ask your intuitive knowing where you are and what you're doing that evokes a true feeling of peace, beauty, and harmony, what would you say?
Singing. That was an easy one.
Oh,
I never feel more centered, more at peace than when I am singing mantras or
yeah.
toning.
And
And I
where
suppose,
where where are you when it's just like every piece comes together to perfection?
mm, well, I suppose, okay, where am I then? I am in a circle of people and we are
Yeah.
singing the divine together. Yeah.
In nature, are you outside? Are you inside?
Yeah, definitely. Yes. Outside.
Okay.
on a summer's evening.
Ah, beautiful. Summer solstice, maybe.
Yeah, yeah,
Beautiful.
absolutely.
Flora, I am so deeply appreciative and grateful
Mm.
for our time together, that our paths are crossed. I already love you dearly and am so excited to tune into the beautiful gift that you've offered and for you to be part of this collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this invitation, and may more women recognize that they are worthy of embodying the Empress, that they are already Empresses.
Yes,
Yay.
exactly. That is the whole message. It's perfect. Thank you so much. All right, beautiful souls. That is it from us for this interview, and I will see you again soon. Mwah. So much love, and bye for now.